questions or comments with respect to the minutes? Okay. I'd entertain a motion for approval of those minutes in a second.
Tom?
Thanks, Tom.
Cheryl, second.
Cheryl, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. So if we want to look at the next item on the agenda, it is the payment of the bills. So that you were also sent a spreadsheet which outlined the bills to be paid. As you can see from scanning that list, those bills all are pretty much ongoing, regular operating expenses. We did get the liability insurance bill for the IDA and the OCCRC, so you see those large item checks in there. I'd like to open it up if anybody has any questions for anything that's being paid. Okay, if not, motion to pay the bills.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Andrew. You all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Also, informationally, you had a copy of the deposits that were made for the month, which primarily are rental payments. We have one loan payment, and then there was a small credit card credit back to our first bank card. The rest of those, I think, we're pretty used to seeing. And so we'll move forward from there. Next item on the agenda is a review of the financial statements by way of you received the balance sheet. I think you received the same copy of the same balance sheet twice in the emails, but it does compare the December 19 to December 20 balance sheet. And then you also received income statement, which showed you the final month of the year and comparative January to December of 19 versus 20. End of the day, you can see the bottom line. We did a better job of not losing as much money, I guess, is one of the things. But remember, there's a large depreciation number in the income statement of $90,000, and you know that is a non-cash expense. But again, if there's anybody that has any questions with respect to those financial statements, either balance sheet or income statement, please feel free. Okay.
Yeah,
with that,
I will
go ahead,
also point that we did budget $50,000 this past year for marketing. So actually, if we didn't do that, we would have actually not positive cash flow.
So Jody, let's move right to the budget comparison. Do you have any commentary on the budget?
Just a quick question, Jeff. I was just wondering with the Oneonta Theater liability and with that unpaid loan, and it's still kind of hanging out there, and that clearly there's a deal coming together. It sounds like it has some good chance. The city's working with that Friends of Oneonta Theater, which they're indicating they have enough money now to buy the theater complex. Well, what happens with that liability from Otsego Now's perspective? I know we wrote it off, but it's still on our books. Is that something that ends up getting addressed, or do we release it, or?
Right now, it's still on our books, and I've been approached by one of the patrons to forgive that loan, and I told them under the state controller's guidance that we can't forgive that. if that building is being sold, we expect to be paid. So I'm sure they're going to approach some of the board members about that and see if there's some way around that.
Jody, what do you know? Do you know what the sales numbers are? Have you asked for a copy of the contract?
No, I haven't. I don't think they've finalized the contract or a sales number yet. One of the things I think they're doing is they're trying to get a grant from the Office of Community Renewal for a Main Street grant to assist with the renovations of that project. I'd be very surprised if the state awarded a grant for that project because it is not really a main focal point in the downtown. But we'll wait and see.
Well, in my opinion, you took the right position to say we anticipate getting paid, and as this comes together, we would like to review the contract. Now, certainly, if the contract came in and we could collect 70% of our debt versus this is none of our debt, we should certainly take a look at that and consider that. But we got to let the details fall into place before we can make any real decisions. That's a great question, Andrew, because I was going to ask Jody if there were any updates on any of the loans that we've got written down and see if there's any potentials there for any collection of any of those debts or any portion of those debts to this point, if he's heard.
And currently, out of the outstanding delinquent loans, that's probably the only one that's in a position to collect some money on right now.
Okay, so no, nothing further than what we know before. All right, appreciate that, Jody. Thanks, Andrew. Jody, did you have any commentary with respect to the budget itself beyond what's been talked about yet thus far?
One of the surprising things was we've been actually having ongoing dialogues with Corning. They actually reimbursed us last month for the pilot agreement, their annual fee, and I think that in the future they'll continue to make payments on that so that we've gotten over that hump. One of the things that is not currently that we took out of the budget was state subsidies from ESD grants. We're expecting to receive all of those this coming year. The halal meat facility, that project is really on major hold right now. I don't suspect that that project is going to move ahead. We zeroed out of our 2020 budget, and I didn't put it in for 2021. So that also affects the sale of property. And with that, we've just really been trying to hold the line on some of our expenditures, and that's why from an original budget deficit that we projected in April of $150,000, we're down to just about $38,000. And hopefully we'll be in the positive next year.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. Any other comments with respect to budgets, financials? If not, I would move to the new and unfinished business, and I know you've got one item in there to cover, Joe.
Yes, because of the difficulties between the state and the federal government, there's a little lag time right now in understanding and trying to get certified tax returns from the IRS to verify incomes. So at the present time, the healthcare coverage that the state provides to our Director of Finance and Administration is they're saying, well, we've got to move you up to a higher rate. What I emailed all of our board members was a request to provide that additional coverage until we get final clarification from the state whether she can drop back down to the lower insurance cost. I believe the total amount if it were to go on the entire year, would set us back about $3,000. It's not a tremendous amount, but I would recommend that we go ahead with that. Right now, we're asking the Finance Committee and actually the Governance Committee for a recommendation, but it has to be voted on by the full board because PAYCO, people are going to want to see a resolution by the board.
Yeah. Well, Jody, a time ago we had a discussion and we had allocated some funds toward personnel expense that was kind of some fallow money, about $5,000, I think, because we kind of anticipated there might be something that we would have to address. So I think that was a good move because we certainly, by reallocating that, we had enough to cover this type of issue.
And I have to thank you for that because I took more out of that and you had me put it back in.
Yeah. Any comments or questions on that issue?
You need a formal recommendation, Jody, through this committee?
We do.
A recommendation from this committee to the board to recommend approval of this.
I certainly would recommend it.
I would second that and support it.
Everybody else? Are we all in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I think we're done with audit and finance, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. Dave?
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, aye. And
Aye.
it'll be yours, Carol.
Do we need to do governance next, Megan, or go right into projects? All right, I'll go ahead and go into projects then. Pull up the agenda. I will forego comments and we'll move into the review of the December 3rd committee minutes. Is there any comments or questions? If not, I would take a motion.
I'll make that motion. Dave?
Thanks. A second.
Tom?
Thanks, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Review of the project charters. I know Jody has, we've had some conversations around the project charters and where we're at with those at this time. Some projects are still a bit in limbo. So he has sent out the charters for the Richfield Springs Business Park and the railroad redevelopment. We want to start with the railroad redevelopment. If there's any questions, or Jody, if there's anything you'd like to talk about specifically with that project.
The suggestion, our last board meeting, Dave Raleigh made a suggestion that we reach out and talk to Bennett Sanders about the possibility of doing a community geothermal system around the park. I did contact him. We had several phone call discussions, and we reached out to an engineering firm called Rambo. They're actually the former Kearney firm that was bought out by the larger group. This past couple of weeks ago, where their engineers from New York City, Syracuse, and actually somebody from Denmark were on the conference call. And their Rambo is a pre-approved NYSERDA company to do feasibility studies. So they're actually reaching out to some of the businesses around the park, such as Corning, such as our feed, loose feed, and seeing whether they would be interested in the community geothermal system that would benefit not just the park, but some of the other businesses that may be high energy users. They would, in theory, write the feasibility study and actually do the work at 100% charge to NYSERDA. They would like this study done within probably the next 6 months. Unfortunately, when NYSERDA has announced the grant program for it, they haven't announced when applications can be submitted, so we're still on hold with that. I also had a meeting with the with Mr. Harrington from the city council, who would like to be involved more with the marketing of the project. And so a meeting in the office with him to go through where we are on that. And he is very supportive of wanting to form a team of people that would be involved in it. Lastly, I did have some conversations with Dawn from about the possibility of having them look at purchasing the Oneonta Rail Yard building, actually a campus. That's obviously some decision that she can't make, but at least there's some dialogue going on that they have an interest in that. And the reason is that property is in an opportunity zone. So investments that they make in an opportunity zone, whether it's purchase or build a building on it, they get the tax benefits on capital gains tax on investments on previous investments that they've part. So there's actually a lot that went on in January with the rail yards. The reason we don't have a project charter right now for custom electronics is actually, as last night we had our final public hearing on that, and we're closing that project out. And there's no reason for the project charter on custom electronics. When we get to the priority projects, potential priority projects, we'll try to narrow it down to, again, 3 that we'll do detailed reports on. One of them is a cluster development of electronics companies, and whether we'll focus our continuation on that. But I'm also leaning toward warning as a potential project, because that seems to be being fast tracked as well.
Thanks, Jody. Take a moment to celebrate the accomplishment of the custom electronics. I think that was a good project to be finishing up on. So great job there. Any other questions on the rail yard? Okay, move into Richfield Springs. I know this is a project that we continue to look for commitment from the owners on. And so, Jody, I don't know if you have any updates further than the charter provides on that.
Yes, on Richfield Springs, I actually have a conference call with the engineering firm that's been working with us on that today at 3 o'clock. I continue to press Andela about getting her financials and determining whether they're going to actually be able to build this building that they're planning on. We did get finally numbers on doing a bond issue for it from Joe Scott's firm. Forwarding that to Andela to see if she can make those payments. And if not, we'll have to make a decision sometime in March whether to keep moving ahead and just paying for the improvements ourselves or scrapping the project. So we'll probably have a special meeting just on this sometime in March.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that basically. So you'll bring that forward to us in the March committee meeting to discuss direction. Does that that will ultimately need a recommendation up to the board on that direction, or would that be something we can resolve in the committee?
I think it'll be resolved in the committee one way or another. If it's, well, it has to be resolved in 2 committees. It has to be resolved in the planning committee, and it also has to be resolved in the finance committee, because there's financial implications to our agency on this. It's going to require both those committees to seriously look at this.
Okay, thanks, Jody. Any questions on any of the charters?
I have a question about Richfield Springs, Jody. We're looking at 10 weeks till the end of March. Can the things that need to be accomplished in order for us to continue with this project, can they be accomplished in that 10-week time period, in your estimation? If somebody was serious and moving forward and organized, could they be accomplished in 10 weeks?
Yes. If they were serious and they really wanted to move this project along. And I've given her that drop dead date a number of times. In fact, she repeated it to Jim Jordan, her architect, and another person in Richfield Springs, because he called me about it the other day. So, I mean, she's aware of the date. She's aware that she's got to make some critical decisions. And really what I need to know, not so much, I don't need for her to tell me that when she's going to start construction or that she's under design right now. I need to know that based on the square footage, she can come up with some rough estimates for what the building is going to cost and whether she can get bank financing for that. That's
Right.
a real question. And that can be done.
It certainly is. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we will move into the director's report. Hopefully everyone had a chance to read and review that. I don't know that we need to go item by item, Jody, unless there's something specific you want to jump out, or if there's specific questions anyone has on what was reported therein.
Well, in addition to the projects we talked about, Cooperstown Distillery, we're closing that project out. We've done our final annual performance report. I'm doing a final drawdown just for our cost and the village cost. The company has fully been paid. So that project will be closed out probably in February. Where I did talk to Joe Scott at length on a number of projects yesterday. He's still reviewing the zoning ordinance. And he hopefully by tomorrow will have a recommendation on the implications of the variance request for bird trucking. They told us now to go before the zoning board of appeals on the 25th. I talked to Mr. Burr earlier this week, I think on Monday, and he indicated that they could postpone it another month if they had to. The New York State Controller's Office is back doing their audit with us. Apparently, they've dropped all the issues except they're focusing on the Oneonta Rail Yard project.
So I just had a question on the marketing study, if we've seen any additional leads come through that at this time.
Refer that to Megan since she's been following the numbers.
I keep getting the same type of emails, and I've still been writing back to all of them, but nothing, no substantial lead has come through to my end anyway.
How many would you say, kind of on average, a month you're getting from an email contact standpoint?
I would say probably like 10 to 12 a week. So
okay.
And they're trying to schedule a conference with us, conference call for this Tuesday to review their latest statistics. So after Tuesday, we'll have a better feel for that.
Okay. Are they providing us a monthly report? Because I know the last monthly report we got was October. It wasn't exactly detailed, but I just was curious in terms of, for this committee meeting, having a monthly report. We have the dashboard, but at the same time, just having a regular monthly report, just get some high level numbers and what we're seeing, or any adjustments to the campaign that have been made.
they haven't been sending one, but we can ask them for that on our Tuesday call with them if that's something that you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that would be regular, I think would be good. If monthly is too much, you know, quarterly at least, the bare minimum.
Megan, can you also forward those slides from Chris's overview? Because I don't remember ever seeing those.
Okay.
Well, also along with the statistical data for what's going on, I think it's important to know the materiality of what people are asking. What type of inquiries are you getting? What are they asking about? And
so they
just to kind of have a
there's no message box. So it just when they send an inquiry, it's just their name, their email address, and it tells if they have to select if they're looking at our website for business or for leisure. And then it tells me which one they selected. And then that's what I get. I don't get a message that says, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Cooperstown. Could you give me, it doesn't say that. So I write them back and I ask them, you know, what are you interested in? What can I help you do? Et cetera, et cetera. And no one has actually written me back. So the suggestion from, you know, both Chris and Paperkite, and I think in our last meeting we discussed it, was keeping all of those email addresses and maybe doing a newsletter so that, you know, they obviously had interest, and going forward we can, you know, stay kind of in their conscious and be sending them newsletters so we're still, you know, on their mind if they do decide that they do eventually want to move either their business or themselves here. So moving forward, we do have budget for marketing. So I think we've discussed, you know, having Paperkite potentially do a newsletter template and then us updating it maybe quarterly or, you know, biannually.
Any other questions on anything on the director's report?
I just have a quick question, informational. Jody, when did that audit first begin? I'm trying to remember.
I'm sorry.
The state comptroller's office audit. When did it begin? We're going back a ways.
I think May or June of last year.
2019.
Great. Pardon me?
Yeah, like 2019. I think we got the initial inquiry in like February or March, and then it started a couple months after that.
I think
you're correct. It's been almost
Our audit team asked for the final report, and they were surprised that we still don't have it.
Yeah. I just hope that the total cost of the audit, when it's done, doesn't exceed the total value of the rail yards. That's my concern.
Okay, moving on to, go ahead, Jody.
I think their concern has been that over the last 10 years, money has been spent on studying the rail yards.
Moving into new and
the only other thing on my report that I've got to remind people, I've had a couple board members who've been really good at getting us back. But if you have board evaluations to send to us, that's sort of a requirement of the state controller's office. So we'd like to get those back.
So noted. All right, we'll move on to new and unfinished business. I did not get a chance to read it thoroughly, but the 2020 annual draft report was provided. Was there anything that you wanted to share specifically around that, Jody? Definitely outlines the accomplishments for the year and the directions we're moving in.
The only project that we dropped out of that annual report was actually the Omegang project, because they had called me from Kansas City and said they really want no discussion about what we're working on. So that project came out. But in general, we've actually, because through the micro enterprise and the PPE program, we've actually worked with more businesses this year than in the previous years. It's quite a good number.
Any comments on the annual report?
Or if people have suggested changes or things they wanted added into it, please let me know. We were required to have that every year, so I have a month, maybe 2 months to finish it up and put it online.
Okay, anyone, so that, send any changes Jody and Megan's way. The next item was the fillable IDA application.
Yes, this was again at the request of Corning, because they're working on now 2 applications to submit to us. They said, is there any way we can get a fillable fire IDA application? So I quickly did one up. I sent it to Joe Scott. He's made some comments and some corrections. But basically we'll be going online so that people have a much easier time in filling out their application than handwriting it and then have it retyped and sent to us. So hopefully by the end of the month, that'll be on our webpage as a useful tool to people.
So there were no material changes to the application, correct?
No.
That's definitely something worth doing, making it much easier on the administrative staff. Review of the 2021 priority projects. I know you have a relatively large list, and I think I'd like to walk through each of those, Jody, if you wouldn't mind giving the board an opportunity to weigh in and discuss any questions they may have for those focus items as you look to narrow into your top 3 for the year.
Okay, the first one was Brown House Road Business Park. We actually have to come up with a name for it because we've drawn around a series of names on it. We did budget money to clean up what was called Lot E, $30,000. I've had some discussions with a company out in the west that's looking at the possible hemp stalk processing facility there. They're also looking at sites in Buffalo. One of the benefits, again, of them looking at this site was that it is in the opportunity zone, so the amount of investment that it would make on a 45,000 square foot processing facility would have good tax implications to them. And again, we're continuing to work with Southern Tier 8 and our 8 counties to market the opportunity zones. We're working on a real marketing plan and hired a firm that would actually put them online to investors throughout the United States. I've also had discussions with New York State Electric and Gas, and they've indicated that this would be an eligible project for one of their market for funds to assist with marketing that site itself. So we're putting together an application for New York State Electric and Gas on that. We've talked about the study of a community geothermal system earlier. And what's interesting is that it turns out that none of our business parks are actually shovel-ready sites designated by the state of New York. So in the last 3 weeks, I've had 4 or 5 conversations with staff at ESD. We're trying to get all 3 of our sites designated as shovel-ready so that the state could actually put them on their website for marketing purposes. And then again, we've had some discussions regarding Corning, the possibility of having a building on there. So that project, I think, for this year is our #1 project again. I actually am hopeful we'll have some movement on this. Richfield Springs right now is still our #2 project because we've gotten a little over $1.5 million to run water and sewer to that site. The third site I'm recommending that we look at as a priority project is the Corning project. They've consistently, since I've been here, been making investments in Corning. In 2018, there was a $12 million investment. In 2019, they invested another $1.2 million in their solar array. This year, they're planning at least a $14 to $16 million improvements to their facilities for new equipment. And we've been in discussions, as we had an executive session discussion about this earlier, that there possibly could be a very large project in the near future, as early as this year, with a phase 4 expansion. With that, there's likely to be some job creation. And when I know more, we'll probably have a discussion about this in the very near future. The 4th project is our marketing campaign. And again, we seem to be really started some momentum on marketings. We're continuing to do the digital marketing for this year, the marketing with the opportunity zones with Southern Tier 8, having the state designate our sites as shovel ready so that they can actually market them on their web pages, and looking for additional funding for marketing on a specific site, being the Oneonta rail yards with New York State Electric and Gas. Brooks Bottling, we're still waiting to get their application, but this is going to be a 3-phase project. Phase 1 would be a pilot agreement just for their land acquisition. Phase 2 would probably be the building construction, and phase 3 would be their equipment installation. So it's a multi-year project. I don't anticipate it taking 5 years. Number 6 on the list was the electronic cluster development. We now have Astrocom Electronics, Custom Electronics. Greenwich Networks moved Massachusetts into Custom Electronics as a separate company. Beach Horrific moved from New Jersey into Custom Electronics as a separate company, and Systematic Power Systems, as was reported by one of the chief people in the Oneonta Ion
Jody?
system. Yeah.
Excuse me, my mic's hasn't been working. Can you go back just a hair? You're saying that none of our projects, none of our property at the industrial site are ready, are approved by who? Site ready?
Right.
Shovel ready? Excuse me, shovel ready?
There's on our webpage, actually before I got here, there's listed as that the Oneonta Business Park, for example, the Pony Farm Park was shovel ready. Technically it is. It's just never been officially certified by New York State. So they don't list those on their webpage as shovel ready sites in New York State.
I think, if we go back and look, that was, and Jeff Lord, you could help with this. That was, I remember having numerous meetings about that being listed and conversations with New York State on making sure that all that was shovel ready and listed as shovel ready.
There was a list out even before the previous administration, back probably 10 years ago, where they had build New York sites, and they were on that list originally. When they came out with the shovel-ready sites, all three of our industrial parks dropped off that list, and apparently about 4 years ago. And that's why I have 2 lists. One that you're referencing, Craig, that is correct. They're listed in there. They're not listed as shovel-ready, but they're on Build New York list, and they have 2 classifications. This year, when I went to the list, none of our sites appear on it. And apparently there was no formal application to do them as shovel-ready sites. It's not a difficult application because the most difficult, it's a little time consuming because you have to get USGS maps, you have to get topographic maps, and you have to submit all with your site. But it's not, all of our sites would qualify. Even the ones with springs.
Well, I think you just go back to the engineering firm that did all this for, and have them put it together. Maybe not waste your time. I mean, last I knew was that was set for, unless any local codes have changed. So
yeah, I can certainly talk to 1 or 2 engineering firms and get an idea of what they would charge for that. It should, because it's not that difficult.
Okay. And as far as the garage, they're renting the garage. My understanding that the town of Oneonta is asking for a change of use permit, and that's just their way of boggling things down. I don't understand. Have you asked for the reasoning of why they asked for a change of use permit when it's been a garage since day one?
The reason is that you can have a garage there, but you can't have, it can't be serviced to the general public. So people can't come up to the counter and say, I want to drop off my truck for repairs. The Hale bus garage, when it was used by Hale, they didn't have the public coming into their building. They used it as a garage to send trucks out. So because there's interaction with the public, that's what the code officer says is not allowed as a use. And he was the one who says, but you can always go for a variance, which is why they're...
Which they always want you to do, which makes it more difficult for the building. And now we could lose tenants. I would question that, just my opinion. I would question that. And it's once you get it into the boards, everybody's questioning anything that will go in there. That's what they'll do. So it's my opinion. Thank you.
Yep. So moving along past the electronic cluster, the 7th project we have in here is obviously the Omegang Brewery. That is still a concern. It's not a lot of jobs. We're talking 23 jobs right now, but it is a major tourist attraction, and we certainly are considering that as a major issue for this year to work on with them. The last one is somewhat of a going back and somewhat picking up. It's business incubation and entrepreneurialism. One of the things that we've learned in the past year with the pandemic is that a lot of our small businesses are suffering. And similar to somebody like Omegang, which is now run out of Kansas City, or Ioxis, which is now being run out of Tennessee. And even before Ioxis was bought by Tennessee, the owners lived basically in Massachusetts. They really had no ties to the community to a certain extent. So we want to look at the ability to help our local small businesses here grow. And one of the thoughts is to make this a priority project through the Office of Community Renewal. I've had an initial discussion both at the county level as well as with the Office of Community Renewal at the state. We have a conference call at 2 o'clock with the state to talk about a new micro enterprise program that was specifically focused on small businesses and particularly digital marketing with them. How to get their product online and market it digitally and selling, because unfortunately, we have a feeling that this pandemic is going to be around for at least another year. And we want to start getting people used to selling their product online and know how to do that. So that's one of the new initiatives that we'll be undertaking this year.
Jody, so am I correct in saying you're really extending from digital marketing into actually online e-commerce is what you're looking for there?
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of the store owners are like me. They really don't know how to do it. So we figured we'd provide some technical assistance and use some of the grant funds to actually provide them with upgrade software and the ability to actually put their products online.
I think if they just hire somebody under 30, they probably solve the problem. That's what I do with those problems.
Could probably go even younger these days.
Yeah, probably.
If everybody in the county were to buy a keg of Omegang, that would solve a problem too.
Well,
And
we
create
can
some
put
other
them
ones.
together. All right, great. Anything more from projects? Anything additional, Jody, and new and unfinished?
I think that's pretty much it. I'd like anybody who has comments, I want to email me back on priority projects and what they think of them, or I'd be happy to listen to everybody's concerns or suggestions.
Does anyone feel like there's anything missing from the list, or, as Jody and I continue to talk about capacity, right, 8 might feel like too much. So I think we have to understand just really how we're going to allocate 2 people's times to 8 different projects, as well as the day-to-day things that are also popping up and going on. So, I think really understanding from your guys' point of view, are there items on there that you're not passionate about or don't feel like will move the needle for our county, or do you feel like there's projects that are missing from that list?
I just have a question about Ioxis. Where's Ioxis next year, Jody?
I talked to Scotty Johnson on Friday, and he indicated that, again, everybody's blaming COVID-19, but he says because of COVID-19, they're about 6 months behind in where they thought they would be. And they're hoping to be somewhat profitable by June or July of this year. And at that point in time, he'll be in a better position to do everything he said he was going to do. Now, with that said, I did ask Joe Scott to reach out to his attorney to get his impression of what's going on there too, that we could double check. The plant manager here has indicated that they are staying, so hopefully that's correct.
Great.
The only comments I would make right now are, very in tying into what the previous comments Cheryl made and Jody. We have to be prepared to be very nimble with our priority projects, because if in fact 2021 ends up being an extended COVID issue, your whole dialogue with Omegang and many businesses could change dramatically. If we have another Dreams Park shutdown, we have another lack of a whole season for the summer, that's going to affect a lot of businesses, and they may change their whole paradigm. So with that said, I hope that isn't the case, but we have to be very nimble. We have to make quick starts, quick finishes, get deals off of because how long have you been dealing with a project and it doesn't come together, and then you look back and go, wow, that was a lot of time spent on that.
Right.
So that's my comment now. It's just to be nimble.
Thank you, Jeff.
One comment I'd like to share back to the industrial park and bird trucking. Playing devil's advocate, we have tenants there now. It's a professional looking area. Having dead garbage trucks outside a garage isn't really the scenery I might want next door if I wanted to build an electronics firm. So yeah, we want commerce, we want to be cooperative, we want to be easy, but the quality control of the site overall is some of our concern moving forward of finding tenants. So it's not as simple, let's do it because we can. I think we have to have a little longer view of it. My 2 cents.
Yeah, Tom,
I
I think
agree.
last
I
time
agree, Tom.
last time we also talked about, right, being mindful of really our purpose in these parks. Is it really about revenue generation or is it about job creation? And so just also being mindful of that. And at this point, it's our understanding burst trucking would not actually create jobs. So that was just something, again, for us to be mindful of as we look at those tenants going in those buildings.
Yes.
Any other feedback on the priority projects? Again, as Jody mentioned, we welcome emails with any of your comments or concerns or suggestions along the way. I do think it's important, as Jeff noted, to remain nimble. And those are 8 projects that are not necessarily will allow that. So as we get deeper into some of these projects and making sure we still have reserve capacity for those projects that may pop up given our scenarios and situations. Okay, with that, I think we are good on the projects. I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Cheryl.
Thanks, Dave. Second?
Tom?
Thanks, Tom. We are adjourned. We'll move into the governance.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just got a new system here. Just want to make sure it's working all right. So I will defer the chairman's remarks because I do have to get on another call with the state here at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to make this quick. And if if you have to continue longer, I'll just switch it over to Dave. Dave can take over. We have the approval of the December 3rd meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Dave. Can I get a second? Thank you, Cheryl. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? All right. New and unfinished business. Well, before we get to that, a couple things just for the group. We've sent out a copy of the bylaws. I think that was back in December. I don't know if we've gotten any comments back. I know, Megan, you were going to follow up with Joe because there were several questions on there that we just need to have his input on. Any other comments on those minutes? On those bylaws, excuse me. We'd like to bring that to the full board for approval in February.
I am still
got me
waiting for feedback from Joe on those. And that was another comment that I got from another committee member was, is Joe okay with the bylaws and, all of the bylaws that have been, or the switches that we've made. So I will reach out to him again today and just follow up on that for you guys.
And
okay, will you CC me on that email as well? So I can, thank you.
Yes.
Jeff, I'm not sure those went out to all of the board members. I think that just went out to the governance committee.
That's correct, yeah. I can send it to everyone if everyone wants.
Yes, would you send it?
Yep.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's my mistake. So please give me your feedback, your comments. Hopefully we're cleaning up a lot of the language that's there, and we'll make sure that's applicable to what we're actually doing today. And then we'll take a vote on that in the month of February. Other unfinished business, it's that time of year again, we have to do an evaluation of Jody. And so Jody is in the process right now of doing his self-evaluation. Once that is complete, he'll be sending that to the executive team. We'll go through, we'll have a meeting, we'll reach out to all of you to get comments. And then what we plan on doing is probably realistically we'll discuss it in February in executive session, and then in the month of March we'll do the review after that with Jody. Okay. And then also under new and unfinished business, we have the temporary increase in healthcare coverage for the Director of Finance and Administration. I believe that all of you have seen the emails that have been sent out. Any other questions? We just have to formally approve that. Questions, comments, feedback, or if not, I'll take a motion to approve that.
So moved, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl. I get a second?
Tom?
Thank you, Tom. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. Any other issues that we need to bring forth today for governance?
I just want to say thank you for staying on top of the evaluation. It's something that we didn't always have organizationally.
Well, I give Jody credit. He actually sent it to me last week saying that we need to start this process again. It was a nice reminder. Thank you, Jody. And he did send me his evaluation from last year. So he's going to go through and do this self-assessment. We'll get to that information. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dave. All in favor? Well, we don't need
Aye.
a second to adjourn. Thank you. All right. Thank you all very much and have a great day.
Bye, guys.
See you, everybody. Have a good
Bye,
weekend.
everyone.